Have you ever been so publicly humiliated, so thoroughly disrespected, that every single nerve ending in your body screamed for immediate, violent revenge, but you chose power instead? If you've ever felt that fire, that cold, calculating fury that comes from being profoundly wronged, hit that like button and prepare yourself. And if you're new to the channel, you're going to want to subscribe and ring that bell, because we are about to dissect the epic cost of unbridled arrogance. Go find a mop. The help's entrance is in the back, darling. Tiffany Beaumont, her voice dripping with the casual cruelty that only generational wealth can perfect, flicked a glass of vintage Cabernet directly into Dr. Evelyn Reed's face. The dark red liquid exploded like a firework of disrespect. It splashed across Evelyn's white silk blouse, staining it a deep, spreading crimson. It dripped from her chin, ran in rivulets down her neck, and splattered onto the pristine white marble floor of the Grand Imperial Ballroom in Chicago. Droplets clung to her eyelashes. For a moment, the world was a blurry, ruby-red nightmare. Tiffany didn't stop there. With a smirk that played to the silent, watching crowd, she grabbed Evelyn by the hair, yanking her head back. "Did you hear me? Or is the cheap fabric of your outfit plugging your ears?" she hissed, her voice a venomous whisper, meant for Evelyn but loud enough for the nearest tables to hear. She kicked Evelyn's leather briefcase, sending a cascade of meticulously organized papers scattering across the floor like fallen leaves. 300 of the city's most influential tech moguls, venture capitalists, and innovators just stared. A sea of tuxedos and evening gowns, frozen in a tableau of shock and morbid curiosity. Then, like a synchronized wave, phones were lifted. Tiny red recording lights blinked into existence, a constellation of digital witnesses. The Beaumont Enterprises annual gala was being live-streamed, of course. It was the social event of the tech season. And its high-definition cameras, designed to capture triumphant speeches and charitable donations, were now capturing something far more raw, far more compelling. A public execution of dignity. "Oops," Tiffany said, wiping her wine-stained fingers on the shoulder of Evelyn's now-ruined blouse, a final, deliberate act of defilement. "You really should have stayed on the south side where you belong." Evelyn Reed remained silent, motionless. The wine dripped from the ends of her tightly coiled hair. The silk blouse, a custom piece she'd bought to celebrate this very night, was a complete loss. But her expression was a mask of unnerving calm. She slowly raised her wrist, glancing at the diamond bezel of her Patek Philippe. 9:22 p.m. She had precisely 8 minutes. 8 minutes until the Auratech signing that would decide the fate of every single person in this room, including the woman whose wine was still dripping down her face. On the Gala's official YouTube stream, the viewer counter began to twitch, then jump. 15,000, 27,000, 40,000. The chat log was a waterfall of frantic text. Comments flooded the Beaumont Enterprises Instagram feed. Tiffany Beaumont, heiress to a teetering empire, had just picked a fight with the one woman who could push it over the cliff. She had humiliated, on a global stage, the architect of her family's salvation. The tragic part? She had absolutely no idea. Have you ever been in a position where someone tried to break you, completely unaware that their entire world was resting on a single signature from your pen? Evelyn bent down, her movements measured and graceful, despite the insult clinging to her clothes. She began to collect her scattered papers. That's when Tiffany's stiletto heel, a glittering weapon of fashion, came down hard on her hand, pinning it to the cold marble. A sharp, searing pain shot up Evelyn's arm. "Don't touch those," Tiffany's voice echoed across the suddenly silent ballroom. "Security will dispose of your fraudulent documents, everyone," she projected, her voice amplified by the room's acoustics. Let this be a lesson in what happens when we don't properly vet our guest list. Head swiveled. Phones were aimed with renewed focus. The livestream viewer count rocketed past 75,000. Evelyn straightened up slowly, the wine on her chin now mixed with a single furious tear she refused to let fall. She examined her crushed fingers, the indentation of the heel clearly visible on her skin. Then, she looked directly at Tiffany Beaumont. There was no anger in her eyes, no fear. There was only a terrifyingly cold calculation, the look of a grandmaster seeing the entire board and knowing checkmate was only a few moves away. "Ma'am?" Evelyn's voice was steady, betraying none of the pain in her hand or the fury in her heart. "I believe there has been a profound misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" Tiffany laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. She turned to play to her audience of peers. "This person snuck into our private event. She was probably trying to steal trade secrets or plant a virus in our network. I've seen her type before. They always claim it was a mix-up." The phrase, "her type," hung in the air, thick and poisonous. Near the raw bar, a senior partner at a venture capital firm whispered to his associate, "My God, is she really saying this on a live feed?" Frank Miller, the hotel's general manager, materialized at their side, his face a perfect mask of professional neutrality. He was paid an exorbitant salary to make the problems of the rich and powerful disappear. "Ladies," he began, his voice a soothing baritone, "perhaps we could move this to a more private setting to resolve—" "There's nothing private about this," Tiffany snapped, cutting him off. "I want every single person here, and everyone watching at home, to see how Beaumont Enterprises deals with imposters." She snatched the microphone from the MC's podium nearby. The feedback screeched for a second before her voice boomed through the ballroom's state-of-the-art sound system. "Attention, esteemed guests. We appear to have a security breach." The entire ballroom fell silent. 300 pairs of eyes, and now over 90,000 online, were fixed on the woman in the wine-stained blouse, standing alone in a circle of judgment. A photographer from Forbes, initially there to cover the gala's success, lowered his camera, a sudden wave of unease washing over him. This felt less like a news story and more like a lynching. "This woman," Tiffany's voice resonated with absolute authority, "has infiltrated our exclusive gathering. She is clearly not one of us. Look at her. The cheap dress, the fake confidence. I caught her trying to access confidential documents." A scattered, sycophantic applause broke out from a few tables populated by junior executives hoping to curry favor. Some guests filmed with a feverish intensity, sensing a viral moment in the making. Others looked down at their plates, their discomfort a tangible thing, yet none dared to intervene. "The dress is probably a rental," Tiffany continued, warming to her performance, feeding off the drama. "And that watch? A laughable knockoff. These people think they can fool us, that they can just waltz in and belong." Evelyn calmly wiped the wine from her eyes. Her gaze scanned the room and found it, the main camera for the official live stream. She locked eyes with the lens. The camera operator, recognizing the potent drama of the moment, slowly zoomed in, capturing her unnaturally serene face, a stark contrast to the crimson stains that marred her skin and clothing. "The whole undercover janitor act is compelling, I'll give her that," Tiffany pressed on, a cruel twist to her lips. "But we all know where she really belongs, back in the scullery washing dishes with the rest of the staff." More scattered laughter, but this time it was weaker, more nervous. On the live stream, the comment section exploded into a full-blown war. "OMG, Tiffany Beaumont is a monster. That poor woman, this is assault. This is beyond racist. This is a hate crime. Someone call the police." "Beaumont, it's over, party." Evelyn checked her watch again. 9:24 p.m., 6 minutes. Her phone, resting in her clutch on a nearby table, buzzed silently. A text message. It was from her team, watching in horror from the Auratech campus in Austin. Evelyn, the board is watching this live from the emergency meeting in Tokyo. The entire Beaumont deal hinges on tonight. H. Beaumont is on this feed. Do you need us to intervene? Javier Tiffany noticed the glance towards the phone. And there it is, the proof. She's probably texting her accomplices on the outside. Security. 2 uniformed guards moved forward, their expressions a mixture of reluctance and duty. Evelyn didn't flinch. She simply walked to her clutch, opened it slowly, deliberately, and pulled out a single, stark white business card. She held it out to the hotel manager. "Mr. Miller," she said, her voice quiet but carrying an immense weight. "Before this escalates any further, perhaps you should verify my credentials." Miller took the card. He read it. His eyes, which had been professionally neutral moments before, widened in sheer, unadulterated panic. He looked from the card to the wine-stained woman, then back to the card. His carefully constructed composure shattered like cheap glass. Tiffany, annoyed by the delay, snatched the card from his trembling hands. She read it aloud, her voice dripping with mockery. "Dr. Evelyn Reed, Chief Architect, Auratech Global Infrastructure." She then laughed so hard she snorted, a loud, ugly sound that echoed in the silent room. "This is the most pathetic fake I have ever seen in my life. An executive from Auratech? They don't look like... well..." She gestured vaguely at Evelyn's entire being. "Like her." Several audible gasps rippled through the crowd. The livestream counter smashed through 120,000 viewers. The chat was now moving so fast it was an unreadable blur of outrage. She did not just say that. Auratech is watching this. Tiffany Beaumont is a dead woman walking. This is the end of Beaumont Enterprises, recorded in 4K. Someone is about to learn the meaning of find out. Evelyn, ignoring the chaos, pulled out her phone. The screen was spider-webbed with cracks from where Tiffany had kicked her briefcase, but it still worked. She showed the screen to Miller. There it was, her official Auratech executive credentials, her photo clear and professional, alongside a calendar notification flashing in bright red. 9:30 p.m. Final execution of Beaumont Enterprises partnership, Project Chimera. Miller stumbled back as if he'd been tasered. "Miss Beaumont," he stammered, "I strongly advise that we..." "You strongly advise what, Frank?" Tiffany's face was now a furious shade of crimson, a stark contrast to the wine on Evelyn's blouse. "That this street trash covered in my wine is actually from Auratech? Frank, you're fired. Get out of my sight before you believe this garbage." Evelyn's voice cut through the tension, calm and clear. "Mr. Miller, would you please dial Auratech's main corporate number and ask to be transferred to the office of Dr. Evelyn Reed? Despite the vintage of Cabernet Miss Beaumont chose for my impromptu facial, I believe my voice will still be quite recognizable." "Don't you dare!" Tiffany shrieked, the first crack appearing in her arrogant facade. "She's just playing this up, this whole victim act." But Miller, his career flashing before his eyes, was already dialing, his gaze locked on Evelyn's wine-splattered but profoundly dignified face. He put the call on speaker. A crisp, automated voice filled the ballroom. "Thank you for calling Auratech, the future connected. For our headquarters in Austin, please press 1. Miller's finger trembled as he pressed the button. "How may I direct your call?" a human operator asked. Yes, I need to be connected to the office of Dr. Evelyn Reed, please. It's an emergency." "Of course, transferring you to the executive assistant for the chief architect of global infrastructure. Please hold." The color drained from Tiffany Beaumont's face. The jaunty, triumphant cruelty was gone. replaced by a dawning, sickening horror. "This is impossible," she whispered to no one in particular. "She's covered in wine." A new voice came on the line, sharp and professional. "Office of Dr. Reed. This is Amanda speaking. How can I help you?" Evelyn wiped a drop of wine from her bottom lip before she spoke. "Amanda, this is Evelyn." The response was immediate and frantic. "Oh my God, Dr. Reed! We're all watching the live stream. The entire executive floor is watching. That woman just assaulted you. Are you okay? Should I dispatch corporate security to your location?" The ballroom, which had been silent before, now achieved a new level of quiet. It was the silence of a vacuum. Tiffany Beaumont's mouth hung open, a perfect O of disbelief. "Amanda," Evelyn continued, her voice as calm as a frozen lake, "are you and the rest of the executive team still tuned in to the Beaumont Enterprises live feed?" "Yes, ma'am," the voice replied, crackling with energy. "The entire board is on an emergency video conference right now. They are incandescent with rage. Legal wants to know if you wish to press criminal charges for the wine assault." Tiffany lunged for the phone, a desperate, wild animal instinct taking over. "That's not—" "She's lying. The wine was an accident." Evelyn stepped back smoothly, the wine-stained silk of her blouse clinging to her. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced, her voice now resonating with an authority that silenced all dissent. "Despite Miss Beaumont's creative redecorating, I am indeed Dr. Evelyn Reed, Chief Architect of Oratech's global infrastructure." She held up her cracked phone. The hotel's AV team, prompted by a terrified Mr. Miller, connected it to the massive projector screens flanking the stage. Her credentials filled the screens, 20 feet high, for everyone to see. Evelyn Reed, PhD, Chief Architect, Oratech Global Infrastructure Employee, ID, AR793B1 Authorization Level, Omega Prime Contractual Signing, Authority, 5 billion USD. Current Assignment, Project Chimera, Beaumont Enterprises Partnership, 5 billion USD. Current Assignment, Project Chimera, Beaumont Enterprises Partnership, billionist. Current Assignment, Project Chimera, Beaumont Enterprise Partnership, 4.8 billion. Status, pending signing deadline, 9:30 p.m. tonight. The live stream viewer count exploded past 250,000. The internet was having a collective meltdown. Wine assault just cost Beaumont Enterprises $4.8 billion, the plot twist of the decade. She owns her. She literally owns her entire family. This is the most expensive glass of wine in human history. Tiffany stared at the screens, then at Evelyn, the evidence of the assault, a damning dark red stain between them. "But you can't be," she stammered, her world crumbling in real time. You're covered in wine." Evelyn's voice cut through Tiffany's shock like a shard of ice. "Yes, Miss Beaumont. The wine you threw in my face, the hair you pulled, the hand you stepped on, all on camera, in front of 250,000 witnesses. Tell me, what, precisely, did you think that would accomplish?" The clock on the projector screen read 9:28 p.m. 2 minutes. 2 minutes until the signing ceremony. And Dr. Evelyn Reed, covered in wine but completely unbroken, now held all the cards. The ballroom and the internet erupted into absolute chaos. From the back of the ballroom, a man came barreling through the crowd like a bull, his face a mask of pure terror. It was Harrison Beaumont, Tiffany's father, the CEO of the crumbling empire. "Tiffany, what in God's name is going on here?" His eyes took in the scene. Evelyn, looking like the vengeful ghost of a vineyard, phones recording from every conceivable angle, and his daughter, standing there with a microphone in her hand like a spent weapon. A flicker of relief crossed Tiffany's face. "Daddy, perfect timing. This woman crashed our gala and now she's spinning this insane story about working for Oratech. I was just handling it." "Handling it?" Harrison's gaze fixed on Evelyn's wine-soaked blouse, then shot up to the massive screens still displaying her Omega Prime clearance. His face went from flushed to a ghastly, corpse-like white. He recognized her. He'd spent the last 6 months on weekly video calls with her, begging for this partnership. "Oh, dear God," he whispered, the words catching in his throat. "Tiffany, what have you done?" "I protected our company." Tiffany's voice climbed, becoming shrill with panicked denial. "She was obviously a fraud, so I taught her a lesson." A voice from the crowd, emboldened by the shifting power dynamic, called out, "Nobody saw a lesson. We saw you assault her." Tiffany whirled around. "Shut up! You don't know what you saw!" Evelyn stood perfectly still, a statue of wronged dignity. She raised a hand and slowly, deliberately, wiped a smear of red wine from her cheek, ensuring every camera, every phone, every pair of eyes in that room captured the damning evidence. Harrison knew it was over. His voice was a strangled gasp. "Dr. Reed, I am so profoundly sorry." "Sorry?" Tiffany shrieked, turning on her father. "Sorry for what? Daddy, look at her! She's a mess. She's clearly not executive material." The live stream viewer count surged past 300,000. The comments were a torrent of digital schadenfreude. Daddy didn't know LMO. Harrison Beaumont looks like he's about to have a heart attack. She assaulted an Oratech exec. "It's over. Stick a fork in Beaumont Enterprises." Harrison grabbed his daughter's arm, his grip like a vice. "You will stop talking, right, now." "I will not." Tiffany ripped her arm free, her fingernails leaving white marks on his skin. "I refuse to be intimidated by some wine-stained con artist." Evelyn's phone buzzed again. This time she answered on speaker, her voice carrying across the silent ballroom. "Hello, Marcus." Even Tiffany recognized that name. Marcus Thorne, the legendary, enigmatic CEO of Oratech. "Evelyn." The voice on the phone was calm, but carried the chilling weight of absolute power. "The entire board is watching this performance. Are you physically unharmed? Do you require medical attention for the assault?" Tiffany's face went completely white. That's not possible," she whispered. Evelyn's voice remained impossibly steady. "I'm fine, Marcus. Just wearing some unexpected dessert, courtesy of the Beaumont Heiress." "The wine assault is now trending #1 globally on Twitter," Thorne's voice continued. "Our legal department is drafting a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit as we speak. But Evelyn, the final decision rests with you. Do we proceed with the Beaumont partnership tonight? Or do we activate Protocol Omega?" The entire ballroom held its collective breath. 300,000 online viewers waited for the guillotine to fall. Harrison Beaumont looked like he was going to vomit onto the marble floor. Tiffany, in a last, desperate act of defiance, grabbed the phone. "This is all a trick. She hired actors. Look at her. She's covered in wine." Evelyn calmly retrieved her phone. "Marcus, I will call you back in precisely 2 minutes with my decision." The line went dead. A silence stretched across the room, as taut as a piano wire. The chief of hotel security, a man named Ramon, approached cautiously. He'd been reviewing the hotel's own CCTV footage from the moment the commotion started. "Miss Beaumont," he said, his voice firm, "I have reviewed our security feeds. You clearly approached Dr. Reed, threw wine in her face, grabbed her by the hair, and then kicked her personal belongings." "She provoked me!" The lie was pathetic, shrill. Ramon held up his tablet, showing the crystal-clear, multi-angle video of the unprovoked attack. "Ma'am, the footage is indisputable. This is aggravated assault, recorded from 7 different angles." The crowd surged closer, a wall of phones now encircling Tiffany, capturing her complete and utter meltdown. Her voice cracked. "But she doesn't belong here. Look at her. She's... She's what, Miss Beaumont?" Evelyn's question sliced through the air like a razor. "Say it. Say the words you're thinking. Let the whole world hear them." Tiffany's mouth opened, then closed. She knew, even in her panicked state, that the words she wanted to say would be the final nail in her own coffin. Harrison tried one last desperate plea for damage control. "Dr. Reed, please, let's discuss this in private. My daughter, she's not herself tonight." "I am perfectly myself." Tiffany spun on her father. "I'm the only one here who sees through this charade." A waitress, a young woman with a name tag that read Maria, stepped forward nervously. "Excuse me, sir, but I saw the whole thing. Miss Beaumont came to the bar, demanded our most expensive bottle of Cabernet, and said she was going to deal with the trash. Then she walked right over and threw it on this lady." "Shut up," Tiffany snarled. "Nobody asked you, you little peasant." "Futtough." Witnesses now seemed to materialize from the woodwork. "I filmed it on my phone," said a tech blogger. "She called her a charity case right before she threw the wine." "She told her to go mop the floors," added another. Each testimony was a hammer blow, sealing Tiffany's fate. Evelyn stood in the center of it all, wine-stained but regal, letting the truth wash over the room. Tiffany's desperation peaked. "You're all lying. She planned this whole thing. She probably spilled wine on herself to frame me." The sheer absurdity of the claim drew a wave of disbelieving laughter from the crowd. Evelyn checked her watch, the diamonds sparkling through the smudges of dried wine. 9:29 p.m., 1 minute. Harrison Beaumont did the only thing he could. He fell to his knees. His $4,000 Brioni suit crumpled onto the wine-splattered marble floor in front of Evelyn. "Please, Dr. Reed," he begged, tears streaming down his face. "I'll fire her. I'll disown her. I'll give you anything you want. Just don't destroy the 15,000 jobs that depend on my company because my daughter is a fool." "Daddy, get up!" Tiffany screamed, horrified. "Don't you dare beg for this wine-covered nobody!" The live stream hit 350,000 viewers. The comments were a tidal wave. CEO on his knees. Tiffany still doesn't get it. Wow. 15,000 jobs versus one spoiled brat. Wine karma is the best karma. Evelyn looked down at the broken man at her feet, then at his daughter, who still seemed unable to grasp the magnitude of her actions. "Mr. Beaumont," she said, her voice devoid of any warmth, "your daughter didn't just assault me with wine. She did it while using racially coded language, attempting to incite a crowd against me, and showing a complete lack of human decency. All of it recorded, all of it witnessed, all of it trending globally as we speak." "I never said any of that," Tiffany shrieked. "They're putting words in my mouth." "Tiffany!" Harrison's voice thundered from his position on the floor. "Every syllable is on video." Evelyn's phone rang again. It was her assistant, Amanda. She put it on speaker. "Dr. Reed, this is Amanda. The Oratech board has reached a unanimous decision. Given the incident captured on the live stream, we are officially implementing Protocol Omega." Tiffany didn't know what Protocol Omega was, but the sound that escaped her father's lips was one of pure, soul-crushing despair. "Are you certain, Amanda?" Evelyn asked. "Yes, ma'am. The wine assault has now been viewed over 5 million times across all platforms. The reputational risk is unacceptable. Oratech cannot and will not be associated with this level of public bigotry and violence. Protocol Omega is active, effective immediately, unless you personally override the board's decision." Evelyn looked at Tiffany, who was now trembling, a cornered animal finally realizing the cage door had slammed shut. "What's Protocol Omega?" she demanded, her voice a reedy whisper. Evelyn's smile was as cold and sharp as a surgeon's scalpel. Complete and total termination of all existing and future partnerships between Oratech and Beaumont Enterprises, effective immediately. It also includes a 7-year industry blacklisting, preventing your company from contracting with any of Oratech's numerous subsidiaries and partners. The color completely drained from Tiffany's face. But you can't do that. Not over a little spilled wine. A little spilled wine? Evelyn's voice finally rose, not in anger, but in a display of sheer dominant power. You publicly assaulted me. You used slurs. You damaged my property. You had me physically restrained. And you did it all while I was here, at your invitation, to sign a $4.8 billion deal that was designed to save your family's entire legacy from collapsing into ruin. Tiffany stared at her, the dark red stains on both their clothes a testament to her catastrophic miscalculation. The truth, finally, brutally, hit her. I didn't know you were important, she whispered. Evelyn took a step closer, her eyes boring into Tiffany's. Important? No, you didn't know I was human. This would have been just as wrong if I were the janitor you seem to despise so much. A journalist from the Wall Street Journal pushed through the crowd. Dr. Reed, will Oratech be pursuing criminal charges for the assault? Before Evelyn could answer, Tiffany completely unraveled. Criminal charges? Over wine? This is insane. Ramon, the security chief, stepped forward. Miss Beaumont, in the state of Illinois, assault is assault. The weapon used is irrelevant. You attacked her, you grabbed her, and you did so with malicious intent. That is a Class A misdemeanor, at minimum. The racial component could elevate it to a felony hate crime. The live stream chat went supernova. Felony assault with a deadly Cabernet. Tiffany is going to jail. Rich girl prison time. Hope she likes orange. In a final delusional gambit, Tiffany turned to her father. Daddy, just buy Oratech. Then we can fire her. Harrison Beaumont closed his eyes, a man utterly defeated. Tiffany, he said, his voice raspy. Oratech is valued at $2.8 trillion. We are worth, on a good day, $1.2 billion. And after tonight, he trailed off, the implication hanging in the air. The reality had finally shattered Tiffany's bubble of privilege. She had assaulted someone with the power to erase her family from the map. Evelyn's voice, now calm again, sliced through the silence. Miss Beaumont, when you threw that wine in my face, when you kicked my briefcase, when you called me trash, what did you truly think was going to happen? I thought it was funny, Tiffany admitted, her voice small and broken. Funny? Evelyn's composure finally cracked, just a little, revealing the incandescent rage beneath. You found racist humiliation funny? You enjoyed trying to break someone you believed was beneath you? Tiffany stared at the wine, still staining Evelyn's blouse, the irrefutable proof of her cruelty. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Evelyn wiped the last drop of wine from her face, the gesture deliberate and final. Miss Beaumont, your intent is irrelevant. The impact is all that matters. Your assault wasn't a mistake. Your words weren't a slip of the tongue. And my response won't be either. The crowd waited. The internet waited. The business world waited. The clock on the screen struck 9:31 p.m. The signing deadline had passed. It was time for the consequences. Dr. Evelyn Reed, covered in wine but draped in power, held the future of Beaumont Enterprises in her stained hands, and she was about to close her fist. The twist was complete. The wine assault had not just revealed the rot of bigotry, but had triggered the destruction of a billion-dollar empire, and the whole world had a front-row seat. The lesson was about to be taught, and the tuition was $4.8 billion. What would you have done in Evelyn's shoes? Would you have accepted the apology and saved the 15,000 jobs? Or would you have done exactly what she did? Let me know your honest answer in the comments below. I'm truly curious to see what you all think. Now, back to the devastation. Evelyn stood in the center of the silent ballroom, the dark, dry stains on her blouse looking like battle scars. She reached into her briefcase, the same one Tiffany had so contemptuously kicked across the floor. "Before I make my final call to Marcus Thorne," she announced, her voice echoing with chilling finality, "I think everyone in this room, and everyone watching at home, deserves to understand the full, detailed cost of Miss Beaumont's lesson." She pulled out a thick, leather-bound contract. Wine smudges stained the cover. "This," she said, holding it up for every camera to see, "is the Oratech-Beaumont Partnership Agreement, Project Chimera, a deal valued at $4.8 billion over the next 5 years. The livestream viewer count ticked past 450,000. The chat was just a blur of rocket and fire emojis. "I came here tonight, as the lead architect of this project, with the full and final authority to execute this contract and pull Beaumont Enterprises back from the brink of total insolvency." "Insolvency?" Tiffany's voice was a shocked whisper. That's a lie. We're fine." Evelyn flipped to the second page of the contract, showing a detailed financial analysis, her finger pointing to a key metric despite the wine stains. "Beaumont Enterprises' current debt load is $2.6 billion. Your Q3 revenue is down 31% year over year. According to our due diligence, without this Oratech partnership, your company will be forced to declare Chapter 11 bankruptcy in less than 12 months." Harrison Beaumont slumped in his chair, his face gray. His deepest, most terrifying secret was now being projected on a 20-foot screen. "This contract," Evelyn continued, her voice a relentless torrent of facts, "would have injected your company with guaranteed revenue streams, given you access to Oratech's next-generation AI and cloud infrastructure, and, most importantly, it would have restored legitimacy to your brand in the eyes of Wall Street." She turned to a page marked with a bright yellow tab. "The signing was scheduled for precisely 9:30 p.m. tonight. It is now 9:33 p.m. As per Section 14, subsection C of this agreement, failure to execute by the hard deadline renders all negotiations null and void. Permanently." "But you can still sign it. Just sign the damn thing." Tiffany lunged forward, her hands grasping for the document. Evelyn pulled it back sharply. "Miss Beaumont, you assaulted the signatory. You called me a racial slur while I was covered in the wine you threw at me, in front of nearly 500,000 witnesses. What you and your father failed to appreciate," she said, addressing the entire room, "is that I have personally spent the last 11 months of my life championing this partnership. I convinced the Oratech board that Beaumont Enterprises, despite its outdated culture, was a worthy investment." She pulled out her cracked phone. "I have over 500 emails between myself and Mr. Beaumont, thousands of man-hours from my team. I flew here from Austin 2 days ago specifically to finalize the last details. Your daughter destroyed a year of my life's work in about 30 seconds with a glass of wine." Her father tried to speak. "Evelyn, Dr. Reed, surely an extension." "There's more," Evelyn cut him off, her voice like stone. She reached back into her briefcase and pulled out a second, even thicker document. "This is Beaumont Enterprises' complete financial audit, completed last week by Oratech's forensic accounting team." She opened it to a page filled with red ink. "Your company is in far worse condition than you've publicly disclosed. This partnership wasn't just a golden opportunity. It was your only lifeline." Harrison stared, dumbfounded. How could you know all that?" "Because, Mr. Beaumont," Evelyn's tone was pitiless, "Oratech does not sign $4.8 billion contracts without turning over every single rock. Your accounts receivable are inflated by over 40%. Your core infrastructure is a decade out of date, and 3 of your largest clients are already in negotiations to jump ship to your biggest competitor, Nexus Dynamics. The live stream chat lost its collective mind. She did the homework. She has the receipts. Tiffany didn't just kill her company, she killed a zombie company. Financial fraud exposed on a live stream. This is insane. Tiffany stared at the documents, her face a mask of confusion. But we're successful. Daddy always said. On paper, Evelyn stated flatly. In reality, Beaumont Enterprises is a house of cards in a hurricane. This Auratech partnership was the one and only thing that could have saved you. She turned her gaze back to Tiffany, the architect of this entire catastrophe. When you threw that wine in my face, Miss Beaumont, you weren't just assaulting a woman you didn't know. You were personally lighting the funeral pyre of your own family's legacy. Tiffany's voice was barely a whisper. I didn't know. You didn't know because you never bothered to care, Evelyn retorted. You were born into a world of immense privilege, but never developed an ounce of wisdom. You inherited wealth, but never learned the meaning of value. Evelyn produced one final document from her briefcase. This one was pristine, untouched by the wine. This is Auratech's Alternative Partnership Prospectus. There are 5 companies on this list, all of them vetted, all of them ready to accept a multi-billion-dollar infrastructure deal. She held it up for the cameras. Nexus Dynamics, SkySpire, OmniCloud, any one of them would be a fine choice. Harrison Beaumont finally broke. He buried his face in his hands, his shoulders shaking with silent, racking sobs. So, you're going to sign with one of them, Tiffany stated, the fight finally gone from her voice. I'm going to sign with a company whose leadership doesn't commit hate crimes on a live stream, Evelyn confirmed. A company that understands the basic, fundamental principles of human decency. Tiffany made one last, pathetic attempt. But you can't judge our entire company, all 15,000 of us, based on what I did. I'm just one person. Evelyn looked at her with an expression that was almost pity. Miss Beaumont, you are not just one person. You are the executive vice president of this company. You are the CEO's daughter. You are the public face of the Beaumont brand. And tonight you showed the entire world what that brand truly stands for. She gestured to the wine stains that connected them. You assaulted me because you thought I was powerless. You used slurs because you thought I was beneath you. You tried to humiliate me because you believed, in your soul, that there would be no consequences. The ballroom, the internet, the world held its breath. But Miss Beaumont, Evelyn's voice dropped to a near whisper, yet it carried to every corner of the room. There are always consequences, and tonight they cost $4.8 billion. She closed the stained contract, the sound of the leather cover shutting echoing like a gunshot. She placed it back in her briefcase and clicked the latches shut. The sound was deafeningly final. The Auratech-Beaumont partnership is officially and irrevocably terminated. Your legal team will receive formal notification within the hour. Tiffany finally collapsed into a chair, the full, crushing weight of her actions landing on her all at once. She had destroyed her family's empire with a single, arrogant, hateful act. Evelyn pulled out her phone and dialed. Hello, David. This is Dr. Evelyn Reed. Please draft the partnership agreement for Nexus Dynamics. Yes, the same terms we offered Beaumont. I'd like to sign it tomorrow afternoon. She hung up and looked at Tiffany one last time. Miss Beaumont, I sincerely hope you enjoyed that glass of wine, because it's the most expensive drink in human history. The ballroom erupted. Reporters surged forward, shouting questions. Security moved in to form a protective bubble around Evelyn, escorting her towards the exit. She walked away, leaving the ruins of Beaumont Enterprises and Tiffany's shattered privilege in her wake. As she reached the door, she paused and turned back one last time, Her voice cut through the chaos. Let this be a lesson to everyone watching. Character is not revealed in the boardroom. It's not measured on a balance sheet. It is revealed in the small moments when you think no one of consequence is watching. She touched the stained collar of her blouse. Tonight, Miss Beaumont showed the world her true character, and in doing so she lost everything her family spent a century building. Evelyn Reed walked out into the Chicago night, leaving behind the wreckage of a dynasty and the most expensive act of bigotry the corporate world had ever seen. Tiffany just sat there, motionless, staring at her wine-stained hands, finally, horribly, understanding. Some actions can't be undone. Some stains never wash out. 2 years after the wine assault that rocked the corporate world, Dr. Evelyn Reed stood on the stage at the Global Leadership Summit, not as a victim, but as a revolutionary. Behind her, projected on a giant screen, was the infamous photo. Tiffany Beaumont, her face a mask of cruel arrogance, in the middle of flicking wine into Evelyn's face. This photograph didn't just change my life, Evelyn began, her voice resonating with quiet power through the auditorium. It changed everything, not because of the act of hatred it depicts, but because of the systemic rot it revealed to the world. The legacy of that night was staggering. The fallout had been swift and brutal. Tiffany Beaumont was convicted of misdemeanor assault and a civil rights violation, serving 90 days in county jail and sentenced to 1,000 hours of community service. Her father, Heiress, was forced to sell the remnants of his company to Nexus Dynamics for pennies on the dollar to avoid complete bankruptcy. He lost his fortune, his legacy, and his reputation. But the real change, the meaningful change, came from the ashes. They say success is the best revenge, Evelyn continued, but I disagree. Lasting institutional change is the best revenge. She had used the massive civil settlement she won from the Beaumonts not to enrich herself, but to launch the Reed Initiative, a nonprofit foundation dedicated to mentoring and funding underprivileged students and entrepreneurs in the tech sector. The Beaumont Clause, as it came to be known, was now a mandatory part of every major Oratech partnership, enforcing strict, zero-tolerance anti-discrimination policies with financial penalties that could cripple a company. It had been adopted by over 500 Fortune 1000 companies. The ripple effect was immense. People often ask me if I've forgiven Tiffany Beaumont, Evelyn said, her gaze sweeping across the thousands of faces in the audience. And my answer is this: forgiveness is not about absolving the perpetrator. It is about refusing to let their hatred define your future. It's about transforming your pain into purpose. Her voice swelled with passion. That night, Tiffany Beaumont's hateful act taught corporate America 4 invaluable lessons. 1. Character is worth more than capital. Tiffany had a 9-figure trust fund, but zero integrity. Her money could not save her from the consequences of her character. 2. Dignity is indestructible. Covered in her disrespect, I chose strategy over outrage, and it made all the difference. 3. Privilege without purpose is poison. Tiffany's inherited status created a monster of entitlement who believed she was above reproach. And 4. Justice may be delayed, but it is never denied. For a few brief moments that night, she felt triumphant. 2 years later, she is working to rebuild her life, while I am working to rebuild this industry. Evelyn stepped closer to the edge of the stage, her voice becoming intimate, personal. Tiffany Beaumont's moment of bigotry became our moment of growth. The wine she intended to humiliate me with ended up baptizing a movement. Now, I want to ask you to do 3 things for me, for this community we are building together. First, I want you to share your story. Have you ever faced discrimination at work? Have you ever been made to feel small because of who you are or where you come from? Drop a comment below. Your story has power, and it can give courage to someone who needs to hear it. Second, spread this message. If this story of resilience and consequence resonated with you, share this video. Every single share is a vote for a world where dignity is valued over privilege. Every view is a reminder that our actions, big and small, always have a price. And finally, subscribe to this channel. We are dedicated to telling stories just like this one, stories of quiet strength, overcoming loud ignorance. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because the world needs more reminders that character is the ultimate currency. Evelyn's closing words echoed through the silent auditorium, a powerful crescendo to an incredible journey. 2 years ago, a woman threw wine in my face because she decided, in an instant, that I was worthless. She was wrong about my worth, but she was right about one thing. I was, for a moment, covered in the evidence of her hatred. The difference? She wore that hatred on the inside. I wore it as a temporary stain. And when the cameras stopped flashing and the wine was washed away, only one of us was left standing stronger than before. She smiled, a genuine, radiant smile. Sometimes the greatest victory is born from the deepest wound. Tiffany Beaumont's assault taught her a lesson about consequences. It taught me a lesson about strength. And it taught the world that in the end, dignity always defeats disrespect.